Hey, welcome back, math people. Remember, to be a math person, you just have to be a person and do math. So since you're watching this video, you're going to be doing some math that qualifies you as a math person. We're going to be taking a look at some rational number operations today. And in the last video, we did some adding and subtracting. Today, we're going to be multiplying and dividing. We're going to be doing positive and negative numbers. And we're going to be dealing with fractions and decimals, all that good stuff. So get ready. This is going to be awesome. All right, we're going to start off first of all with a real quick review of the order of operations. It would be a really good idea for you to copy down this information in case you've forgotten it or you can't find it in your notes. The order of operations, PEMDAS. And so, you got to do your parentheses first, anything that's in a grouping situation first, then your exponents, and then multiplication or division, whatever comes first from left to right, and then any addition or subtraction, whatever comes first from left to right. So let's take a look at this problem here. We've got negative 0.5 multiplied by negative 10 over 1/4 minus 10 to the second power. There's all kinds of stuff going on with this. So let's take this one step at a time. Now it says we're going to do parentheses first, and of course we see parentheses here. So what's going on inside that parentheses? Well, inside that parentheses we see negative 10 over 1/4, which is negative 10 divided by 1/4. All inside the parentheses. Now remember, you can't do anything with whole numbers and fractions. You have to have all fractions. So let's turn the negative 10 into a fraction by putting a 1 under it. And then remember, the other thing is division is multiplying by the reciprocal. So this will be negative 10 over 1 times, what's the reciprocal of 1 over 4? 4 over 1. Okay, and now we just multiply straight across. So what we have is negative 10 times 4 is negative 40, and 1 times 1 is 1. And what's negative 40 over 1? Well, that's just negative 40. So that's what we've got. Inside the parentheses, we have negative 40. And I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay. Now, there aren't any more operations in parentheses. We just have a negative number inside the parentheses. So now the next step is to do anything with exponents. And we can see here that we've got 10 to the second power. Now that's minus 10 to the second power. That's not negative 10 to the second power. There's a big difference. So then what we're going to do here with 10 to the second power, of course, is 10 to the second power is equal to 10 times itself. And 10 times 10 is 100. So that's 100. Minus 100. Okay, so let's see here. We'll bring everything else down. Okay, so now we have negative 0.5 multiplied by negative 40 minus 100. Okay, so we are going to do the multiplication first. Here it is. Negative 0.5 times 40. So what does that look like? Well, negative 0.5 times 40. I'm going to multiply everything times this 0 first. So 5 times 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. All right. The next row, I'm going over 1, so I have to add a 0 before I even start. And then 5 times 4 is 20, carry the 2. 0 times 4 is 0, plus 2 is 2. And then I add up what I've got going here. So it's 0 and 0 and 2. Now, of course, 0.5 times 40 isn't 200, but you'll notice there is one number after the decimal. And so I have to make sure I have one number after the decimal in my answer. And so put my decimal right there. So negative 0.5 times negative 40 is, let's see, and a negative multiplied by a negative, remember, is a positive. So that'll be positive 20, because I don't need that extra 0, so that's just 20. And now I bring down the negative 100, or sorry, minus 100. Now I'm looking at 20 minus 100. And what is subtraction? It's adding the opposite, so this will be 20 plus the opposite of 100 is negative 100. So I have 20 positives and 100 negatives. So I'm going to, because they don't have the same sign, I'm going to subtract 100 minus 20, and I get 80. But what do I have more of? I have more negatives, and so my answer is going to be negative 80. So after all of that, I have a final answer of negative 80. How fun was that? That was awesome. All kinds of great stuff happening in that problem. Let's take a look at the next question. Todd's library book is 7 1/2 inches in height. What is the height of the book in centimeters? Well, we've got this really great table here. You should probably copy that table down, at least to the part about the centimeters. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Now we're going to bring back our old friend, the proportion for this one. Because if 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch, right? We want to know how many centimeters is equal to 7 1/2 inches. And if you remember from way back, how do I get from 1 inch to 7 1/2 inches? I got to multiply that by 7 1/2. And if I do that there, I have to do the exact same thing in the top. Multiply by 7 1/2. So what does that mean I'm going to do? Well, that means I'm going to multiply 2.54 times 7 1/2. But here's the thing. I can't multiply a decimal times a fraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my fraction, or my mixed number here, into a decimal. And remember how we do that. So I'm going to take that 7 1/2, turn it into an improper fraction by multiplying 2 times 7, which is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 7 plus 1. That equals 15, and remember that's 15 halves. And so then I have that. I'm going to divide my numerator by my denominator. 2 goes into 15 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. 15 subtract 14 is 1. I have a remainder, so I'm going to tack on a decimal, bring that decimal up here into my quotient, add a 0, and bring it down. And now, because I brought a number down, I divide 2 into 10. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And 2 times 5 is 10. I subtract, I get 0. So 7 1/2 is 7.5. And you probably could have figured that out a different way, but this is what we're doing. So that means I'm going to multiply 2.54 times 7.5. And I'm going to do that work over here on the other side of my book. 2.54 times 7.5. Now, you need to remember that when we multiply multiple digits, we're going to multiply everything by the 5 here first in the ones place. 4 times 5 is 20. And I carry the 2 up here. And then I multiply 5 times 5. That's 25 plus the 2 is 27. And I carry the 2 again. And 2 times 5 is 10 plus 2 is 12. So my first row is 1, 2, 7, 0. Then my next row, I have to add a 0 before I even start because I am multiplying by a number that is 10 times bigger than the first number. And I'm multiplying 4 times 7, which is 28. Carry the 2. 5 times 7 is 35. Plus 2 is 37. Carry the 3. And 2 times 7 is 14. 15, 16, 17. Okay, so, and then I add my 2 rows together. 0 and 0, 7 and 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 7 and 2 and 1 is 10. Carry the 1. 7 and 1 and 1 is 9. And then 1 there. We're almost done. I have to look at how many numbers come after the decimal in our problem. And there's 1, 2, 3. So we have to have 1, to 3 numbers after the decimal in our answer. So I put my decimal right there. And because this last 0 is just out there on its own, I can get rid of it. And so 2.54 times 7.5 is 19.05. So what were we trying to find? How many centimeters that is? Well, so 19.05 centimeters is the same thing as 7.5 inches. Beautiful. All right. Oh, look at all that beautiful math. Man, I love that. All right, let's try another problem. Practicing more of these skills. It says that Todd ran 4 3/4 miles yesterday. 4 3/4 miles, and he wants to brag to his Canadian friend about it. Well, you know, in Canada, they don't have miles, they have kilometers, and so he has to explain to his Canadian friend how many kilometers he ran. And so what we're going to do is we take a look. So we got 4 3/4 miles, and you see here that we have our comparison here. 1 mile is equivalent to 1.61 kilometers. So we're going to set up our old friend the proportion again. 1.61 kilometers to 1 mile is equal to, let's see, how many kilometers for 4 3/4 miles? All right, now remember, we have to figure out what do I multiply 1 times to get 4 3/4? Well, I'm going to multiply by 4 3/4. And if I do that in the bottom of my proportion, I have to do the same thing up here, times 4 3/4. So what I end up doing is multiplying 1.61 times 4 3/4. But the problem is, of course, that I can't multiply a decimal times a fraction. And so I have to turn my fraction, because my decimal isn't going to work out nicely. I'm going to multiply my fraction, or turn my fraction, my mixed number, into a decimal. So I'm going to take 4 3/4, turn it into an improper fraction first. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19. And 19/4. So that's my mixed number. So that's what I'm going to change into a decimal by dividing. Put my numerator on the inside, denominator on the outside. Numerator always goes inside, top number always goes inside. And now I divide. How many times will 4 go into 19? Well, 4 times. And 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. 19 minus 16 is 3. So I have a leftover, I have a remainder. So I put my decimal here, bring my decimal up, add a 0, bring it down. And now 4 goes into 30 7 times. 4 multiplied by 7 is 28. 30 subtract 28 is 2. I have a remainder. Bring another 0 down. And then divide 4 into 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract 20 minus 20, I get 0. So 4 3/4 is 4.75. So that means I am going to multiply 1.61 times 4.75. Because you can't multiply decimals times fractions. All right, so this looks like it'll be fun. 1.61 multiplied by 4.75. Ooh, a 3-digit by a 3-digit. Let's go. All right, starting off, multiplying 1 times 5 is 5. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 1 times 5 is 5 again, plus 3 is 8. Next row, I add a 0, and I multiply 1 times 7, 7. 6 times 7 is 42. Carry the 4. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 4 is 11. And then I have one more row. I am going to, now because I'm moving over another space, I have to add another 0. So now I'm over 2 zeros. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 times 4 is 24, carry the 2, and 1 times 4 is 4, plus the 2 is 6. All right, and now I add all my rows, 5 and 0 and 0, 0 and 7 and 0, 8 and 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14, carry the 1, 1 and 1 and 4 is 6, and 1 and 6 is 7. Now, how many numbers come after the decimal in my problem? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 total. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4 total in and put my decimal right there. So 1.61 kilometers is equal to exactly 7.6475 miles. But we could say that would be about 7.6 miles. About. Okay? Lots of good stuff happening. Let's move on, and we're going to do one more. This one is going to be a little different. Todd's uncle is a submarine captain. One time, his submarine dove 178.5 feet in 3.5 minutes. We want to know what was the average rate of descent in feet per minute. That sounds like a unit rate to me. Unit rate. So we know because it was diving, it was going down. So that's negative 178.5 feet. And that was done in 3.5 minutes. Okay? And we want to know how many feet is that in 1 minute. So, what do we got to do? Well, we got to find out, how do I get from 3.5 to 1? Well, we have to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So remember, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So this is 7 halves. Now, if I want to change a fraction into 1, I have to multiply by its reciprocal. And what's the reciprocal of 7 over 2? It's 2 over 7. So I multiply by the same up here, 2 over 7. So that means I am going to be multiplying negative 178.5 times 2 over 7. And, you know, to be honest, I think it's going to be easier to change my decimal into a fraction instead of this fraction into a decimal, because, I mean, I know, and hopefully you do too, that 0.5 means that's 1/2, right? So this would be negative 178.5 times 2/7. And so this should be easy to take care of. And so we're going to multiply a negative 178.5 times 2/7, but, you know, like we said, you can't multiply a mixed number times a fraction. It's got to be a fraction. So I have to multiply 2 times 178 and then add 1. And to save a little time, 2 times 178 is 356, plus 1 is 357 over 2. And that's negative times 2/7. And then when I multiply straight across, that and that, I get 714 over 14. Now those are both even numbers, so I can divide both of them by 2. And 714 divided by 2 is 357. Oh, remember this is negative. And 14 divided by 2 is 7. And so 357 divided by 7, that is 357 divided by 7. 7 goes into 35 5 times. 7 times 5 is 35. Subtract, bring down the 7. 7 goes into 7 one time. 51. So, when it's all, and that's negative 51, of course. So, his rate of speed for diving would be negative 51 feet per minute. Negative 51 feet per minute. Okay, well, that's some really good practice with multiplying and dividing rational numbers. You got to convert your fractions to decimals or your decimals to fractions before you can do anything with them. Hope that helped. I want you to have a great day. Don't forget to be awesome, and we'll see you next time.